What's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith at GSD Studios, and welcome to another Jim and Jay show. So who the hell are Jim and Jay? Jim and Jay are my personal health, fitness, nutrition, biohacking, overall life optimization mentors. These are by far the two biggest badasses that I've ever met in this space. I don't know anybody when it comes to these topics, you guys, that's more knowledgeable. So we created this show for our GSD mode listeners to have an opportunity to go out there and submit your questions here to the show. If you have any questions you want answered on the show, shoot us an email at jimandjay@gsdmode.com, and we will do our best to answer all your questions here live on the show. Also, real quick, want to plug our sponsor that makes this show possible is www.chekd.com/TRT Revolution. So on the show, Jim, Jay, and I talk a lot about getting your blood work done, checking all your different levels, your hormone levels, making sure that your body is operating at its most optimal self, right? So that is the company that Jim, Jay, and myself all use. So again, www.chekd.com/TRT Revolution. So let's jump on into the show. All right. What's up, peeps? Joshua Smith here in GSD Studios, getting ready to launch and kick off another Ask Jim and Jay show. Just in case you guys are tuning in for the first time, the Ask Jim and Jay show is where I bring on my mentors, Jay Campbell and Jim Brown, my health, fitness, biohacking, energy management mentors here on the show, where we can go deep into topics, answer questions that you guys have in the show, and go deep on the topics that we feel are relevant to help you go out there and live the most optimized, epic life that you possibly can. So a lot of great topics as always to cover today. If you have any questions you want answered on the show, make sure you shoot us an email at jimandjay@gsdmode.com, and we'll do our best to get your question answered here on the show right away. So with that being said, let's jump on it. How you guys doing tonight?
What's up, Joshua?
Good, man.
All right, man. So we got some pretty cool topics today. We got a couple topics we want to hit on, and then one question where we decided that we would just go deep and tackle this question because it's a fan of the show that is obviously going through some mental and physical tough times, and we really want to dive into that particular situation. The first thing we want to talk about, though, that we wanted to bring up because it comes up a lot, something that I don't want to say I didn't hear about a lot, but I had a totally different mindset on it until I met you guys, which is Cialis, right? So, you always hear that stuff and you think that that's, for old dudes that can't get it up and having issues in the bedroom. And then it comes out that there's a lot of other great benefits. I recently started taking very, very small doses, not for the sexual benefits, but because of the heart and vascular benefits that it brings in. So let's dive into that. So real quick, what is Cialis? And then let's talk about some of the other benefits that it has that people may not be aware of.
You want to go, Jim? Start it off?
Start it off, Jay.
Okay. So Cialis is what is known as a PE5 inhibitor, which basically means that it's a medication that is used to increase nitrogen or nitric oxide formation to the penis. And it also has a number of other effects in the blood. It's a vasodilator. And it also, there's numerous other benefits to it that actually science is really just catching on to. But it was originally created as a sexual dysfunction drug, an erectile enhancement medication, because again, it stimulates blood flow to the penis, which is an organ. It's not a muscle. And when the shaft of the penis gets flooded with nitrous oxide, it stimulates it to obviously get harder and engorge with blood. So that's the reason for that medication was originally scripted. It actually came after Viagra. For anyone that's ever used any of these erectile dysfunction drugs, whether it's, there's three primary ones. There's Levitra, Cialis, and Viagra. Cialis is definitely the best medication because well, for a couple of reasons. But number one, it lasts the longest. They used to call it the weekend party drug when it first came out. But it does, a dosage of anywhere between 25 and 30 milligrams will last a man up to 36 to 40, some guys 48, but most guys about 36 hours. And again, it's not the way it works. The mechanism of action is a little different than Viagra or Levitra. Viagra is more instantaneous. So a lot of guys, when they get that vasodilation, especially guys that are fat and are not in good aerobic shape or health, they can have headaches. Some guys even get like really vicious migraine headaches. Again, because of the vasodilation, it's speeding blood flow and blood rush to the brain and to the head. So it's creating that headache effect. Yes, it'll give you an erection or a hard-on or whatever, but sometimes it's too potent. Whereas Cialis is more of a relaxed, gradual come on. Like if you take Cialis and expect to have sex 20 minutes later and get the sexual, or the erection enhancement that you would with Viagra or Levitra, you won't get that. However, after about 2 or 3 hours of it getting in the system, you will be able to feel that effect over time. So a lot of guys, and it's not as sharp, it's not as that brain massive spike in vasodilation that you get from Viagra or Levitra. So a lot of guys, it appeals to men much more because they can have sex and then maybe 3 hours later have sex again or whatever. And then over the course of a weekend, let's say you go away like to Vegas or Scottsdale or some vacation tourist destination, and maybe you're not married, you're a single guy, and you're with a couple of women or whatever. It helps, increase the erectile strength and whatnot. But the other effects, and I'll let Jim talk a little bit about this, which is the most recent science, is it does a number of other things in the blood's in circulation. It increases vascular health or improves vascular health. And again, it's in the vasodilation, it's going through and it's stimulating nitric oxide formation, which also has the other effect or another pronounced effect of clearing out gunk, what we talk about all the time, like inflammation and the stuff that's brought up from overconsumption of carbohydrates and overproduction of insulin and all that stuff. So in addition to that, it's prescribed number one over all the other things, erectile dysfunction and cardiovascular health, for BPH, which is known as benign prostate hypertrophy. Okay. And because again, it has this stimulation effect, it will get the muscles in the prostate to relax. And it actually, over time, a very micro dose of it can reduce the swelling of the prostate gland. So for guys that are, say, in their 40s and 50s, and again, remember, we've talked about this before, all men who reach the age of 80 will have prostate cancer. They will die with some form of prostate cancer if you get to 80. It's just the way it is, the way the gland swells over time. Cialis reduces the size and the swelling of the prostate. So if you're a guy that has, BPH symptoms, maybe a high PSA score, they now script Cialis at 2.5 milligrams to 5 milligrams dosage to reduce swelling of the prostate, to increase urine volume, or what is it called? To stimulate the urethra from having hesitation or vacuums. So if you're a guy right now, let's say let's say you're over 35 and you have hesitation when you go to the bathroom. Okay, your urine flow is not strong, and a lot of guys have this. A lot of ex-steroid users, people that have are competitive bodybuilders, and they use massive amounts of steroids, both oral and injectable. They do have issues where their prostate increases in size over time. Using Cialis, and there's obviously other reasons too. A lot of guys are just fat. They have metabolic disorder. They have other issues like insulin resistance. That also increases the size of the prostate over time. Using a very low dose of Cialis will increase urine volume. And it's I'm telling you, it's a huge benefit, because if you're one of those guys that stands there at the toilet, and you can't empty, Cialis is like a beacon of hope, because it really does improve urine volume and flow, so that you don't have to be standing there at the urinal trying to finish. Because you see it all the time, right? You see a lot of old guys are sitting there and they're shaking, they're trying to finish. But, if you're a younger guy and you have that issue, Cialis will really help in that regard.
Yeah, awesome.
What if you're just shy, Jay?
If you're just shy in the urinal.
So, the only thing I want to add to that is for the vascular health, it is a vasodilator, and anything that increases blood flow to your whole body without increasing your heart rate is a good thing. Right. And so if you think about how important it is to get blood flow to your cells and tissues, right? Think about as you age and as your vascular health becomes compromised, your organs and, distal parts of your body, the farther away from your heart, start to get less and less oxygen and nutrients delivered to them. And that's part of the problems with like diabetics. Their vascular system starts to crash, and then, unfortunately, some of them will go through neuropathy, which is nerve pain, and that's partially because those nerves are dying. Some of them, unfortunately, go through severe incapability of wound healing. You get a cut on your foot and it takes 6 months to heal. Even some of them lose their lower limbs. And that's from compromised vascular health, not delivering enough nutrients. Anyway, so if you can increase vascular delivery and delivery of nutrients and oxygen to your whole body without raising your heart rate, it's a good thing. And Cialis, especially Cialis low dose, is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, and one other thing, Josh, do you have a question? Because I definitely want to bring another point into this.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, and to both of your points, I was really shocked when our good friend, Dr. Grossman, who's also a guy in his very early 30s, was like, hey, Josh, you should start taking this a very micro dose. And I'm like, hey, dude, like, it's not an issue, bro. Thinking that it was just the one thing, and explaining all the other health benefits of it and the heart benefits and again, it's just made sense, right? The question that I have with that though is, from all the benefits, it sounds like it would be very beneficial for men and women. I mean, really, it's just kind of like a drug more for men, or at least you hear about it more for men. Is it something that both men and women should be doing?
So I'll answer that, Jim. So it's a great question. So it's a multi-factored answer because, and I have experimented on women with this medication, so I definitely know. So first off, it does work on women. Okay. From a sexual enhancement standpoint. Now, not all women say that it does, but if you gave, 9 out of 10 women would feel something, but the response that it has from a sexual stimulation is very short-term and very transient. So meaning if you gave your wife Cialis and you were hopped up on Cialis and you guys wanted to have a long weekend of sex, your wife is not going to, or your girlfriend, whatever, is not going to experience the pleasure that you experience with the massively hard erection and being able to do it a lot. Okay. And get hard, shorten your refractory period or whatever. A woman just has a sense where it happens where they feel a little bit more clitoral sensitivity, and they may feel like a more powerful orgasm initially, and then it's gone. And again, like I said, I've had a couple different women that have tried it, and both of them were very similar in reaction. And then women that haven't, or that I wasn't sexually with, but have talked to them, have used it, they all say the same thing. So it seems like it's very transient in its effect on women. But Josh, to your question about is it the same effects, all the other things? Well, obviously women don't have a prostate gland, so it's not going to help them from that standpoint. But for sure, and again, there's no science behind this. This is just us saying this, and this isn't bro talk. But there's no question that women will also get the cardiovascular benefit, as Jim said, in the breakdown and the vasodilation and the speeding of blood flow, clearing the arteries, clearing the arterial passageways of gunk and cellular breakdown and all the, the byproducts of inflammation from insulin. So there's definitely a value to it for sure. 100%. Do you want to add anything, Jim?
No, that's pretty much it. And just for vascular health, increasing blood flow, of course, would benefit females as much as males.
So Josh, if you don't have another question, I do want to bring up another point about it though. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. And Jim and I just did a video with Alexander Juan Antonio Cortez about this very topic about Cialis. So if I was a 30-plus-year-old guy and I was single, this would be the number one supplement in my arsenal. And again, we obviously just talked about all the health benefits to it. But it's Cialis at 2.5, and everybody's got to figure out the dosage, but 2.5 to 5 milligrams a day, again, a micro dosage of it. And remember, most of the stuff written by the pharmaceutical companies, the dosage is literally 20 or 30 milligram pills. Okay. So that's a high dose, still pretty safe, pretty effective. I mean, obviously amazingly effective, but there's no risk. So you're talking about a super micro dose of Cialis. But I see a lot of guys, and here's the issue, a lot of guys who are fat and they have metabolic disorder, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, whatever you want to call it, they cannot get an erection. Okay. And it's something that's not talked about because obviously it's an embarrassing topic. It's not something you want to talk to your doctor about, but a lot of guys who are obese and physically carrying a lot of abdominal fat, right? That whole insulin metabolic disorder where you got a big beer gut or a big belly, guess what? You're going to have sexual dysfunction. So this medication, if you're one of those dudes, you have to take this because now there are some doctors that will argue with me, and they're probably right, that says, well, guess what? If you got metabolic disorder, nothing's going to work. Take whatever you want. It's still not going to work because nothing works. And they're probably somewhat right. I won't disagree with it. But in my book, if you're battling aging, you're in your 30s, and we'll talk about the guys in their 40s and 50s in a second because I don't leave them out. And you have metabolic syndrome, you're not taking care of yourself, but you have a wife and you want to perform, and you don't want your wife to leave you. Well, guess what, man? You got to use this. I mean, we've already told you about the other benefits for it, but just to have this at 2.5 to 5 milligrams a day, man, it's the greatest fail-safe to maintaining a really strong, powerful erection. It really, really is. Now, at that level, or just to seed right from there to the older guys, I get this all the time. I get feedback from guys who reach out to me across the world, and they say, hey, man, I'm really concerned. Ever since I started taking testosterone, I feel amazing. I got all the benefits that you talk about in your book, but for some reason, my erections are just they're not as good anymore. I'll lose in midstream. I'll be having sex and it'll go soft. It'll become flaccid. Why is that? And I always struggle to have this question or the answer to this conversation. But I think that, again, our environment is full of estrogen, right? We have plasticizers, we have BPA, we have phthalates, we have all these things that are suppressing our natural sperm and our virility, which is our testosterone. So you also have to assume that even if you're using test and you have hormonally optimized levels and you're balanced between testosterone and estrogen, dude, a part of aging is not having your penis perform like it did in your 20s or 30s or like your late teens, and I tell guys all the time, I won't bring the person's name up, but we were just talking about him before the show. He's 43 now, and he's like, dude, I don't understand what's going on. He's like, I have the greatest energy. My sex drive is through the roof. I want to bang all day, but I'm having this issue. And I'm like, dude, how old are you? And it's like, I'm 43. I'm like, are you using Cialis? No. Well, dude, you're not 23 anymore. You're not 33 anymore. You're 43. This is a part of aging. And again, I think it's not talked about because, again, we're in an environment where we all know there's a war on men. The whole men's hormonal health is a stretch. There's nothing reimbursed for benefits. You can't go to your doctor and talk about male hormone health. It's just not a subject. So a lot of guys suffer in silence and they can't get an erection. And then they don't have anybody to turn to. So again, we're saying to you on the show, for a lot of the male listeners, and of course the women too, because this is important, because women want to have sex with their husbands. And if their husband can't get an erection, they can't have sex. And then it becomes a really divisive issue in the family. The family unit starts to erode. I mean, this is a serious issue. So what I'm saying is, if you're 40 years old, okay, and you're hormonally optimized, and I hope if you're not, you consider doing so, because you should be, probably. Statistically, you should be. You should be using Cialis. Okay, it's not an embarrassment. It's not oh, dude, my dick, I never had a problem down there. I can get a hard on whenever I want, blah, blah, blah. Dude, part of the process of aging is losing the ability to maintain a strong and solid erection. So the fail-safe is to use Cialis. We already know the other amazing benefits it provides. Using Cialis is going to allow you to always have a rock-hard erection on call. I mean, seriously, I can't imagine a better medication. And again, Jim, you remember, Alexander was only a 27-year-old kid. And he was like, listen, guys, I'm going to stand out here right now. If you're 28, 29, or 30, and you're a single dude out there, and you're interested in caring about your health and your longevity for life, you should be on Cialis. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's that good of a medication. So again, I'm just saying that all those guys out there who are aging and are struggling with maintaining an erection, this is a drug that you have to get scripted. If you can't find a doctor to script it for you, find one that will. It's that simple. I mean, do you have anything to add, Jim?
Don't you get a free bottle when you join Tinder? Well, in all seriousness, there are some contraindications with that medication. So if you're considering it, do please talk to your doctor. Tell them all the medications that you're on. If you're on some of the cardiovascular disease type treatment drugs, you definitely want to have that discussion with your doctor. There are some that have contraindications that are pretty serious. So just keep that in mind when you have that conversation. But other than that, I mean, I think it's relatively safe to say that's a safe drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane, all the ego, you know, and this is just my guess, but so many dudes, their ego is so big, they just don't want to they just don't want to be on it, right? Or admit that they need to be on it. And men and women are so different. You know, men's peak is, you know, teens,
Right.
early 20s. Women's peaks are in the 30s and 40s. It's like the opposite. And yeah, like you said, Jamie, if you want to go out there and have that
No, but
epic,
I mean,
amazing
Josh, think
relationship,
about
so
that. Think
important.
about that. That's such a good point, because you're right. You got a wife now who's like wanting sex, right? And she wants sex all the time, and you literally can't even get a hard on. And when you do, it's like flaccid half the time. That becomes a massive issue in the relationship.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to let it become an issue. You know, I mean, obviously we're here to tell the truth. I mean, this is a tough subject, and you're right. There is ego, and there is like that issue of like, well, you know, I can figure this out. This is bullshit. I'll fix this, you know, and taking it, internalizing it. But this is, the solution is simple. It's Cialis.
Yeah, you do figure it out and you fix it just by getting on it. So, love it, man. Okay, so next question. So we had a fan of the show that reached out. This is a gentleman that, you know, used to be in great shape, was athletic for a lot of his life, let himself go over the years of just, you know, just life happening, man. Kids, getting married, blink of an eye, now he's in his 50s. And things just spiraled out of control, right? Finances and health all at the same time. He got to the point now where his finances are coming back and he's doing well there, but his health is negative onto the other extreme. At this point, he's just reaching out for help, man. He has no energy, no confidence. He doesn't really know what to do, where to start. And he's just reaching out to us to be able to help him for that, because he's at a position right now with his family where he has to be around, he has to be healthy, he has to go out there and perform, but he just doesn't know where to begin.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of those people, you know, that don't know where to begin, what the first step is. And, you know, we always recommend that you get blood work done first and foremost. That way we kind of have a glimpse at your health. You can kind of have an overall picture of what's going on inside. Because if you have, let's just say, for instance, if your hormones are off, like your testosterone's tanked or your thyroid is compromised, then I'm not going to say that dieting and exercising won't have an effect, but the effects will be very, very compromised. And so blood work is almost the first thing that you should do. Kind of get a beginning picture of where you are, what you need to work on, and see if your hormones are compromised first and foremost. Second, you know, the first thing that we recommend is starting some type of cardiovascular activity, because most of these people are overweight. Some of them are kind of just soft, and you know, if you're an ectomorph and you're in this position, you're not really overweight and fat, but your body has definitely changed. Body composition's definitely changed. And cardio is the first step, man, to improving your health and changing your body composition. And cardio doesn't have to be done at the gym. That could literally be you're starting 15-minute walks in the morning with your dog or just around your neighborhood. And when you get to the point where you can do 1, 2, 3, 4 of those a week, then you start upping the time to get, you know, a decent amount. You can be a 20 to 40-minute walk 3 or 4 times a week, and you will notice changes in your body without changing anything else. Not only health-wise, but for body composition. Then you can start cleaning up your diet. And again, I know that I've said this a million times, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but you don't have to be an expert in nutrition. You don't have to read anything. You don't have to know anything. If you just don't eat anything that's man-made, then that will change your life, especially if you're in a situation where, you know, you find yourself, you haven't exercised in a decade, you don't like your body anymore, and you want to make changes. Start doing some cardiovascular exercise, and then switch to an all-natural diet. Meaning, if man touched it, don't eat it. And so, just knowing that, and making those 2 changes would I mean, that's the start. I mean, that's the start of the process.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. There's, you know, the one thing I'll add to that, you know, unless you have a question, Josh, did you want to ask a question to what Jim said?
Nope.
So the only thing I'll add to that is that, and unfortunately, well, first off, thank you for writing into us. You know, we appreciate you listening to our shows, and obviously asking us for advice. It means a lot to us that you would consider us to ask these questions, because I know it's of a personal nature, and sometimes it takes a lot of guts. to even ask the questions, especially when your back's up against the wall. Man, we've all been there. Every single one of us has been there, dude. So, you know, you're not alone. But the reality is that you're never, this is the way I like to say it, you're never too old or too sick or too fat or unhappy to make changes. Monica's father has a great saying, and this is a guy who's a 36-year recovering alcoholic and drug user. People, you don't become sick, and you don't end becoming sick and tired until you get tired of being sick and tired. And this guy reached out to us, you know, at that level, and he finally is making, you know, at least through his email and his conversation, and I know Jim spoke to him personally. He definitely wants to make a committed change and effort. So the first step is always the action, you know, actually taking the onus on yourself to say, sure, I'm dealing with all these issues and obstacles in my life, but, you know, am I really willing to face them, to face my greatest fears and to create a plan to overcome them, you know, because it's the truth. It doesn't matter who you are and what obstacles are in your way. If your mindset is stronger than the obstacles in your way, you can overcome them. It doesn't matter. So, you know, I would only say that to everything that Jim says, I agree. One day at a time, one step at a time, you know.
And how many people can make time for a 15-minute walk in the morning? Everybody can. How many people have treadmills or bikes or whatever sitting in the house that they haven't been on in 2 years, 3 years? You know, that's the first step, man. That's the first step. And, you know, it's one day after the other. So one day you get up and do it, and the next day you get up and do it. And, you know, week by week, oh my God, I did a month of that, and it becomes a habit, and it's a continued effort. But it all starts with that first time, you know, that first step. Or you walking into the grocery store and say, you know what, I'm not going to eat that shit in a box. I'm going to go over to the aisle and buy vegetables. I'm going to buy some fruit. I'm going to buy some clean protein, and I'm going to spend 20 minutes or 15 minutes making it for myself. And I'm going to have a decent meal, man. Something that's going to be, you know, not just satisfying for the next 30 seconds while I stuff it in my face, but it's going to actually help your body. It's helping your body composition, helping your health. And so those are the little steps, just making those and then continually making those decisions every day.
Yeah, love it, man. You know, and I know the Jim asking the question, you know, suffering from depression and coming from a guy that suffered from massive depression to the point where I was ready to take my life. One cool thing about it is, you know, depression exists because you know you're capable of operating up here. You're choosing to operate down here. It's not closing the gap that alleviates the depression. It's just every day knowing that you're taking action, right? And you're getting one step closer. So the cool thing is the depression can be gone in a week. You know, right? And same thing with the self-confidence. The self-confidence won't be in the beginning, but every day when you just wake up and you do the work and do the work and do the work, it won't be hitting your goal that gives you the self-confidence. It's every day getting in that consistent routine, which will start just every day just pumping up your self-confidence a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And nothing breeds motivation more than action, dude. And the last thing on energy, you know, coming from a guy that my whole world's about energy management. I don't do any of this shit to have, you know, big arms, or like, to me, it's just all, I want to get as much done in a 19-hour day as I possibly can, and that's all I care about.
19
you know,
hours.
Right? Which will lead us into the next topic. Hold
on.
But anyway, no, I just want to add one thing, Jay, and then you can jump in. When it comes to energy, understand how our body makes energy. Like, we're not a damn tree. We don't get it from the sunlight, right? We get it from ingesting nutrition into our mouth. So like Jim said, if you eat processed crap that your body can't break down, it can't give you the energy. You know, right? So like, I eat very clean and organic because I 100% feel the difference, right? I feel the difference. It allows my body to break down the nutrients, to use that nutrients for the energy that it needs in the most clean, effective, and efficient manner. And then also the activity is going to give you massive energy. Like when I'm feeling low in the middle of the afternoon, dude, if I just get my ass up and go do a couple burpees or just walk around the hallway, it gives me more energy, man. So all those things will come with the work. And the cool thing is, this shit's not gonna take a year. Like this will turn around and in a week you'll start feeling like a different human being.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add to that, well said, is you know, as a man, especially a middle-aged man, you know, and I think he's like 52 or 53, you've got to get your hormones optimized. Okay. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. If you are depressed, it is 99.9% likely that you have a suboptimal testosterone level and probably high estrogen. And those two chemicals, or hormones operating at kind of a reverse antagonistic, ratio is a setback for you, because you cannot focus in the way that you would focus if you had optimal testosterone. Okay. So it would be different if you were, flat broke and you didn't have the money, but clearly you said that, your finances are coming back. So first and foremost, brother, you've got to get assessed by a competent progressive physician. I think we have somebody that can help you. But if there's somebody local to you that, you can somehow get your benefits to cover, then do that. But that's the number one step, man, is get your blood levels, as Jim always says, done, understand what you're working with, and go get your testosterone optimized, because that's going to be your first step in overcoming the depression. Because once that happens, everything else is just going to naturally gravitate to a positive outcome.
I just want to add a couple things. Just like Josh said, the results kind of feed themselves, man, and you get into this positive spin. The first day you get up and do cardio, that makes you feel good all day. It's not like you're going to be exhausted, and you're mentally and physically going to feel better, and that continues. And then, God forbid, you change your diet, and then, oh my God, you've done this for a month, and you look in the mirror after you get out of the shower, and you're like, wow, something changed. And that's going to feed itself. And this is all building on itself, and it'll give you more and more confidence, and it'll fuel your efforts moving forward. And in 30 years of helping people change their diet, advise them on eating differently, I have never, ever once had somebody go to an all-natural diet, meaning if man-made it, don't eat it, to come back and say, you know what, I've been doing this for a month and I feel awful. Never happened. And I've had people come back and say, I really want to eat a pizza still sometimes, but I feel great and my body looks different. And it really comes down to the fuel that you're putting in your body. You want to perform better. You want your brain to work better. You want it to look better. I mean, you have to feed it better fuel. That's all there is to it.
Agreed.
Love it, love it. Okay, so the last topic we wanted to hit on tonight is sleep, which it is what it is, man. But let's go into sleep, man. What is the importance of sleep, especially when we're trying to, the whole overall goal here is to live the most energetic, optimal, long life that we possibly can. So, how important does sleep play in this? I know, Jay, I think you recently just had a podcast where you went really deep in on this, but let's just dive on in.
I'll just start it off. I know Jim has a lot to say on this too. So first off, just to address Josh, okay, when I was Josh's age, I also was not sleeping very much. Okay, and remember, Josh is like the 0.005% of the world, where his brain is just 100 miles an hour every second. That's just how he functions. He wants to work 19 hours, 20 hours a day if he could. That's fine. And he can do it now because he's still functioning at the peak of his physiological effectiveness. He's got like maybe 2 or 3 more years, maybe 4 if he's really blessed genetically, which he might be, before, you start to naturally start dealing with the bullshit symptoms of aging, right? Which is your testosterone drops, your recovery drops, your metabolism slows down, all the bullshit. It's all known scientific fact. We all dealt with it. Jim dealt with it. I dealt with it. It's just weird, and you deal with it. But sleep is critical. And I'm saying that as a guy who comes from a background of poor sleep. And I, like Josh, always been a type A go-getter, maniac, got my work done, as a writer, as an author. I'm writing late at night. You get that brain focus where you got nobody in your house and the kids are asleep or the wife's asleep or whatever, and you can just focus, right? Like you can just do research. And I was a complete dork too in my 20s. I had no social life. I had my kids late, and I was spending time, like Jim probably, on PubMed and Medline reading studies and research and stuff. So I just love being 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning doing research, and then waking up at 6 to go to work, when I was a wage slave selling whatever advertising or marketing I was doing. And I got into a habit of doing that, but I crashed. And thankfully I was lucky enough to find a doctor that could optimize my hormones. But at that point too, I started becoming more smart and reticent of like, okay, how important is sleep? But so that said, I'm kind of giving you an angle, Joshua, how I was very similar to you. I still only sleep 6 hours a night. Okay. I don't sleep enough. There was just an amazing article posted in Excel Mail from Dr. Mauro Pasquale, who's like a famous author. He wrote The Anabolic Diet, which was a really badass ketogenic diet way back in the day, about how to use a ketogenic diet to increase muscle and stuff like that. And he was kind of off. The technology's obviously vastly improved, which I think we're going to do a show on ketogenic dieting at some point and go really deep and contradict everything that Jim believes. But the reality of sleep is that you need 6 to 8 hours every night. And the functions that sleep controls are so astronomically amazing that like nobody really believes it. Like the truth is that a lack of sleep produces a suboptimal testosterone, suboptimal all hormones. It retards your metabolism. Like it really increases cortisol, which obviously we all know that, you know, a spike in cortisol decreases growth hormone, increases catabolism, which is muscle breakdown, protein turnover, and leads to a host of other metabolic disorder issues like a malfunctioning endocrine system, a malfunctioning central nervous system. All these things are horrible. And the thing about it is that you're chronically sleep deprived. So you're a Josh Smith and you're literally biohacking, you know, using nootropics, caffeine, whatever, you know, to continually be super cerebral and super focused at every point in the day. There's like a systemic overtime breakdown that leads to just inefficiency of metabolic symptoms or you know, processes, which again, I think for most people that are sleep deprived, I think it leads to a poor metabolism. I think that the majority of men, and obviously Josh isn't this guy, but the majority of men who are in their 30s and 40s, you know, serious entrepreneurs, high-level C-level executives who work all the time, if you look at those dudes, you're going to see a normal, consistent pattern of a guy who's got a big gut, has a lot of estrogenic body fat, and they still train because they're motivated people, but they can't get rid of like the stubborn areas of fat. Like they have these pockets of stubborn fat that just won't go away. And that's because their body has downshifted. Their metabolic rate, their thyroid hormone, all these other things that affect metabolism have downshifted because they're just not neurologically replenishing the brain neurotransmitters that are responsible for proper functioning of the body's endocrine system and obviously all other neurological systems because of a lack of REM stage 3 and stage 4 sleep. So all those other things I talked about, yes, sleep affects, but over time, a lack of sleep really leads to a breakdown in biological systems. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you guys weren't in the military, but when you go into the military, the first thing that they do from you day one is you know, the first 24, 36 hours is sleep deprive you, you know, and it's an easy way to stress you. And if you go further or do other things, or you think about, you know, when they interrogate somebody or torture somebody, it's sleep deprivation is one of the most useful tools because you literally start to break down when you're not getting enough sleep. And that's an extreme example, but if you're doing that to yourself day after day, it does add up. Fortunately, I was always real sensitive to my recovery, you know, and how my workouts were going. And I was always a guy that, you know, after I trained, if I ate and then took a nap, my recovery and performance in the gym skyrocketed. If I missed that nap, it really hampered my performance. It was very interesting. As I've gotten older, you know, I'm at a point now where I have to have 8 hours of sleep. I can get away with it. I can cut it down to 6, maybe 5 on an extreme night, 5 to 6 hours. But if I do that for more than 3 or 4 days, then I have to catch up. I really start to slow down, and mentally I'm different. Physically, I'm a little bit different. So I think everybody has a magic number. But it's finding that, you know, there's ways to improve the quality of your sleep. You know, one of the things that we've been using lately is that meditation app that Jay introduced us to. And not only is that great for everything, but that I use that to fall asleep too, and I fall asleep right away. It seems like I've kind of trained myself with that app now, and as soon as I put it on with the night sounds, I'm out.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
Yeah, so there's some ways to kind of hack and improve your quality of sleep, having a comfortable mattress, having comfortable sheets. For me, I have to be cool, so we always have the fan on. There's some ways to improve your sleep that you need to investigate if you're not sleeping properly. But I think finding that magical number and then trying to stay to it. Last point I'll say is having this time too. So if you go to bed at the same time every night, and you wake up at about the same time every morning, and your body gets into that clock, I think it's Dr. Agus wrote a book on how to live longer, and that was one of the most important chapters in that is your body being on that schedule. People who have this shift work and they change their kind of nocturnal cycles every 3 to 4 months, whatever it is, like you're doing day shift, and 2 weeks or 2 months from now you're going to night shift, and then you're switching to third shift. Those people are metabolically and cortisol and hormonally stressed, and they actually say that you'll have a shorter life if you do that. So there's a lot of different aspects to it, but overall it's yes, sleep is good. Try to find out what your magic number is and stick to it for sure.
Go ahead, Josh. I actually have a graph that I took out of that article. I know you got a question, Josh, or you want to ask a question.
I was just going to ask. Yeah, I was going to go deeper in the article because or ask you to I guess what that doctor had thought, what that optimal range is, because that's the problem that I have with it, right? Like I get that we need sleep. We all need sleep. I operate like shit if I'm around like 3-4 hours of sleep. I feel really good on 5. I feel like a god on 6, right? So I can't get 8. I feel like shit when I'm on 8. So I don't know if it's conditioning or what, but my whole thing is, okay, because people always give these ranges. You need, between 6 and 10. Well, okay, if I can learn how to get away with 6 and buy myself back 4 more hours, how do you do that? Right? What does that look like? And I think there are all those hacks. Of course, if you're eating better, wearing the blue light eliminating glasses to get yourself in REM sleep quicker. I've heard certain things like if you have a high protein meal with your omega-3s, it puts you into REM sleep quicker right before you go to bed. Because I'm guessing it's not the total sleep, it's also how long you're in REM. But yeah, let's go deeper in that article and what he really narrowed down, because you said, Jay, between 6 and 8. Is that what he's saying in the article?
So let me pull up this graph real quick. I'm going to share the screen. Hold on. All right, you guys see that? Okay, cool. So first off, Josh, you're right. Okay, there was a book that I read about 5 years ago, and I'm sorry I can't think of the author, but you can Amazon sleep, getting the most sleep or beneficial sleep, and it's probably the #1 research book. It's totally dependent. There is no optimal time. It's how many hours of REM sleep do you average over a 7-day cycle, of 7-day sleep cycle? And if you can get 3.5 hours of REM sleep per night, then you can sleep 5 hours a night. Now, the question becomes, how many people can truly get into REM, which is stage 3? It's actually stage 4, but there's a part of stage 3 that's considered REM. And again, REM stands for rapid eye movement, when you're dreaming, lucid dreaming, and all that kind of stuff. So if you can get 3.5 hours of REM sleep per night, then 5 hours will work. Now, I say 5 hours because I don't know many people, and obviously there's been a lot of biohackers that have tried to hack sleeping and dreamscaping and all of this stuff. I don't know many people that can get into REM sleep in a half an hour. Now, obviously there are meds, there are drugs, there are GHB, there's all these drugs that you can take that can increase serotonin and do all these other things that can, quote unquote, put you into a state where you physiologically, rest and fall asleep. But getting into REM is something to do with brain waves. And I've not seen any research that says you can do it without some medication or some sort of weird sleep tool or being hooked up to, these chambers or these devices where you can get it under 30 minutes. So I think the answer becomes, how do you get REM sleep? And this chart, let's go over this chart real quick, okay? So helps you sleep, all these things. You go to bed and get up at the same time every day. You don't watch TV before bed. Along that, Josh said the UV, the blocker glasses, you should not have your cell phone in your bedroom. Absolutely, you should not have your cell phone in your bedroom. If you have your cell phone next to your bed when you sleep at night, which is 95% of us, and that's a mistake. That blue light, I know Apple is like detuning the light, and so is Android now, and blah, blah, blah. But that shit is a distraction. Plus, you want to wake up in the middle of the night if you hear a text message or a chime or nonsensical notification. That disturbs your sleep. Get rid of your cell phone from your sleep. You can do relaxation exercises. Jim was just talking about the meditation app, whatever. If you're going to do that, put your phone in the other room and have a Bluetooth headset that shuts off after a certain amount of time. Spending time in the sun, that is a massively underrated statement. Getting melanin, obviously increasing production of melanin in your skin from sunlight or photosynthetic, photosynthetical exposure of sun, massively important. People that live in areas that don't get sunlight have sleep deprivation. It's a known fact. Read a book in bed, whatever. Do something to stimulate your brain to overwork so that it falls tired. And then have a light dinner and not too late. Remember, that goes back into no carbs. You want to get into a very low insulin response, because if you have a high insulin response, then your insulin in your pancreas is generating, and it's increasing your metabolism. It's creating central nervous system effects and cascades. So here's the stuff that keeps you awake. And all of us are guilty of these things. And Jim already said it, like air temperature is the number one sleep deterrent. If it's hot or uncomfortable, you're not going to sleep well. Most people, I shouldn't say everybody, universally, but most people need a cool temperature, a cool bedspread, cool pillow, blah, 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 to relax and have your body cool off. Bedding is massively important. I don't know how many times I've told people, if you're a successful person and you're not sleeping in a Posturepedic king size bed or better, then what the hell are you doing? Because the bed quality determines sleep, especially as you age and your body gets used to that. I mean, every time I go to a hotel, when me and Monica go to a hotel, we stay in a nice hotel, 4 or 5 stars. The beds are nothing compared to the bed that I have in my house, right? So it's important that you have a really high quality bed. It's extremely important. Worrying, right? Not living in the now, thinking about what happened today or what might happen tomorrow. That is horrific for sleep. And all of us do that. We all find ourselves doing that. If you are going to use a computer, it cannot be in your bedroom. You cannot be using a computer in your bedroom. Like a lot of people I know, they're on their laptop and they sit there in their bed and they're on their laptop doing stuff until they fall asleep in their laptop or face down. That's not good for you either. What else does it say here? It says, obviously caffeine. Any kind of stimulants after 6 o'clock at night, that's going to screw you up. Last night, I had this horrible cold and I took the pseudoephedrine, the Aleve cold. It's great because it stops the drip. I've got nasty sinus drip. But dude, I took it at 9 o'clock at night and I took the Walgreens generic and it was like crack. I was wide awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the hell? I couldn't go to sleep. So you got to be really careful at taking, stimulants, after a certain amount of hours. I mean, I think most people say, you shouldn't take any kind of stimulants after 7 o'clock at night, depending on what time you go to bed. You should have at least 4 hours before bed if you take a stimulant. So all of those things are critically important, but I really believe the answer, Josh, is 3.5 hours of REM sleep a night. That's all you need. So if you're one of those people that can get into REM in a half an hour, and there are people out there, you do all these things right, you use a meditation app, you don't have an insulin event at night, I think you can do it.
Jay, what's the meditation app? Because I know we're going to get a lot of people asking after Jim brought that up. What's the name of the app, dude?
Hold on, I have it actually. Let me pick it up. It's called hold on, I want to give it to you right now. It's a chakra app. So it's a 7 chakras. It's called, hold on, I'm pulling up the chakra meditation app, but it's called the healing. Hold on, I'm getting info real quick here. I don't know. We can post to it, but it's an iOS and an Android app, and it's called the 7 chakras. I actually have a picture on it because people are constantly asking me about it. Jim, you know what the name of it is?
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
I know.
This app is absolutely okay. Here, I found it. It's called Chakra Meditation Balancing, and then -- Healing Meditation. It's made by Equilibrium SRL. It's absolutely the most amazing meditation app that's on any of the iOS or Android devices, because it allows you to program the chakras and program the timing, the music, the sounds of nature, and all these different things with the chakra. So like, you have 7 chakras in your body, and each chakra represents a different energy system or healing system or whatever. And so you can program it by minutes per chakra. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I'll let Jim talk about it, but it truly is. I mean, I've been using it now for about 3 months, and if I go 2 days without using it, I get stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to sleep for me, man, I mean, you guys can probably relate. You got kids, right?
Yep.
You watch young kids. What do, dude? They wake up, they play so damn hard all day long, nonstop. Right? They're not sitting on their ass watching 4.7 hours of TV a day. Like they go, 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 and then boom, they pass out and they're out like a light. And I mean, people, when they ask me, like, how do you get away with it? I'm like, well, number one, I mean, I take care of my body in a certain way where I eat in a certain way. And I just feel like I don't need as much sleep if I eat organic and do the things that I do. But also, dude, I play hard, man. I go so damn hard to the point where I can't go anymore. When my head hits the pillow, I don't even dream, dude. Like I wake up when the alarm goes off and then you get back at it, man. And, I'm not laying in TV or in bed watching, this blue light LED TV all night and doing all this other bullshit or letting my mind wander. I'm so damn busy, my mind doesn't have time to wander, right?
I think it's all training, though. I know you were talking about Brett, and he's like, oh, my wife needs 10 hours. That's bullshit. I mean, we train and condition ourselves to sleep based on our habits growing up. I see so many of these millennials, I won't mention names, who literally sleep in their parents' basements. Their parents are not making them accountable, and they sleep 10 hours a night. They stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning playing video games, and they wake up at 2 o'clock. I mean, that happened today in my house. So, I mean, the reality.
Not naming any names. Let me just call them right out.
I'm not naming names. I didn't say I'm naming names. But the reality is that you choose how much you want to sleep, and you condition your body to sleep a certain amount of hours. Josh, I agree with you. If you work your ass off and your brain is just numb by the end of the day, you can't even think. You're going to pass out, and you're likely, theoretically, you're going to be in REM sleep faster than a person who doesn't work as hard, who doesn't, have so much cerebral, stuff they have to do on the course of a day, that they are going to be less likely to fall asleep. And then there's the people, if you're sleeping 10 hours a night, then you got serious sleep issues because you're not falling asleep or sleeping deep enough that you need 10 hours of sleep. Does that make sense? There's no way. My whole life, I don't think I've ever slept 10 hours. Honestly, I don't. Maybe one time I got drunk when I was 19 years old, and they said I slept like 16 hours because I had alcoholic poison or systemic, whatever that is when you get alcohol poisoning. But I've never slept 10 hours in a night in my entire life. It's not possible for my brain to sleep that long.
Yeah. Now, Jim, though, when it comes to, because I guess, we're kind of talking about, we've been talking about ways to hack sleep so you could sleep less. But if somebody that's watching this or listening to this is wanting to put on lean muscle mass, right? Like I get why you would need 8 hours of sleep for the muscle to recover and rebuild because that's where that happens in that process. Can you talk about that? Like maybe your brain can get away and you can mentally get away with less function. But if your goal is to gain strength, gain muscle mass, at that point is 8 hours just an absolute must?
Well, I think again, I was gaining the majority of my muscle, and this is pre-gear and post-gear. I was gaining the majority of my muscle when I take a short nap after I trained.
Naps.
It's like a 20 to 30 minute nap. And then at that point in my life, sometimes I was getting 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep at night. But that nap has always been super beneficial to me. And on the times of my life where I would work out, I was working out probably 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I would eat, and then I come home and take a nap for 20, 30 minutes. It was incredible.
I agree.
And I don't think that the overall, sleep at night was the key factor there because it was always short at that point in my life. And even today, if I'm at the point where I'm doing, I'm on a run of 5 to 6 hours, maybe, 5 to 6 hours for more than 5 to 6 days, I have to take a nap. And if I do, even if it's a 15 or 20 minute nap during the day, I can continue that cycle for a long period of time. And so I don't think that the overall sleep time at night is the most essential part of that formula. As far as resetting and muscle growth and all that, I think it's nervous system kind of maintenance and upkeep. That's the important part that happens in sleep, not so much the muscle recovery and repair. That's mostly, protein synthesis is spiked after your workout, and that's why you time all the nutrients to kind of enhance that. but it's more of a neurological reset in your nervous system needing to be fixed and rested and repaired during that process. But, again, to your point, you said you feel like a god on 6 hours. For me, somewhere it's between 6 and 8. If I get 6 hours and a 20-minute nap during the day, I feel great. So I think we're all slightly different, but finding your number, and that may very well be how fast you're getting into REM sleep, and the quality of your sleep, how deep you sleep. If you go really hard and you fall asleep, dead asleep. I mean, all those things I think are contributing factors into this, into all the formula of this, hacking our sleep.
Yeah, when you talked about bedding and sleeping when it's warm, I literally just had a personal trainer on, a high-level personal trainer, trains a ton of professional athletes, and he said one thing when it came to sleep that he never realized, which of course is body temperature, but he's like, I didn't really think about this. He goes, but what do people want when they want bedding? They want high thread count because it's softer. Yep. Well, that high thread count won't allow the air to escape, right. So it actually makes you sleep worse. So he's like, you actually want the cheap ass sheets and the cheap ass blankets to release that air, which allows you to stay cool when you sleep, which is probably the opposite of what most people are thinking.
Yeah, that's a good point. Egyptian cotton is like the minimum I think you need, where it's still like not going to because if you get something that scratches your skin, then you're going to be dealing with that issue where you're rolling all around like uncomfortable. But that is true. Like the really thick cotton counts definitely are hard for energy exchange or heat exchange.
I mean, I even got to the point where I researched, they have a device I think it's called a chill pad, but it's basically a cooler that sits by your bed, and there's like a real thin mattress that you put underneath your sheets, and it circulates water at whatever temperature you choose. And, when we were living in Vegas, there was one bedroom that we just could not get cool enough. And we moved here before I was going to pull the trigger. But, here at the house we're currently living in, the fan is situated perfectly. And, I'm almost cold at night and I sleep great. It's really, temperature is huge for me, huge.
Well, one thing I wanted to add too about what Jim said about naps, and let's just stay on naps for a second, because naps are amazing. They are neuroprotective. They increase serotonin. They do so many things. I mean, obviously, they also flood the system with growth hormone. So, like what Jim was saying, or back to your question, Josh, about gaining muscle. If you're a younger guy or even anybody is struggling to gain muscle, a nap for 15 to 20 minutes a day is absolutely amazing in its ability to restore and then also increase, growth hormone. And then also, I think it's GHRLEN or whatever, ghrelin, which increases metabolic capacity so you can process more nutrients, eat more food. So there's a lot of amazing things that happen with naps. And again, anybody could fit in a nap. I mean, if you're a wage slave, you just, go to some isolated place in your company or go to your car. Hopefully you park in a garage or something like that and put on your Bluetooth headphones and the meditation app and do 20 minutes. The issue with naps are you can't do them too long, because if you go too long, you'll become groggy. You need something that just like right when you wake up, you're like, fuck, I feel amazing. You're refreshed. And everybody has a different time, but I don't think, again, in that guy's book, he said that over 20 minutes is too long. It should be 20 minutes or less.
Yeah, my wife is like that. If she sleeps more than 20 minutes, she's groggy. Yep. My perfect time is under 30. But even if I get 15 minutes, I know. Even if I fall asleep in my car for, under 15 minutes, I feel great, man. It's amazing.
I agree.
Yeah, have you guys experimented with where you don't actually even sleep, right? It's just like 15-minute power naps every 2 hours or whatever. I can't remember the name of that sleep style, but there's a lot of good research behind it.
There is. There's a lot of research behind it for sure.
I haven't ever tried it personally, but it sounds interesting. I wish, like you, Josh, I wish there was a pill, man, I could take and not sleep at all. My God, the things that you could get done. But,
you guys, I only slept 3.5 hours last night because Monica wakes up now no matter what at 5:30, and she's in bed at 10. And I could not sleep last night. I mean, I literally had it. I mean, it was, again, I know what it was. It was that goddamn, it's pseudoephedrine. It's like crack. And so I was wide awake. So I was writing and, going on TRT Revolution and fixing things and optimizing and stuff. But she woke up at 5:30, dude, and she was all loud and, shaking the dogs. And I'm like sitting there, God, I just need 1 more hour and a half to get 5 hours. But I couldn't. So it's like, I know for a fact that when I go home tonight and pick up the girls, I'm going to take a nap. I mean, I have no option, because I'm going to crash if I don't.
Well, we know you, Jay. You're a napper, dude.
Straight up a napper. You guys know that.
Sometimes while he's eating, even.
Having sex.
Yeah, there it is, dude. There it is, man. Love it. So, all right, you guys. Well, that's all we got for the show today. Again, those of you watching and listening, thank you as always for watching and listening. Make sure that you share the show, right? We're looking to expand the show. We want to continue just delivering awesome, epic, amazing, free content for you guys. How we're able to do that is by the growth of the show. So we need you to do us a big solid and please share the show. Any questions that you have, shoot us a email at jimandjay@gsdmode.com, and we'll definitely talk to you next time. And Jim and Jay, as always, man, truly appreciate you guys taking time. We're busy to be here, man. Truly means a lot.
Awesome.
Thank you, man. It's my pleasure.
All right, you guys, we will see you next time.